Have you ever dreamed of being a wizard? Do you see a crooked stick and think, nice wand? Were you involved in a broom accident that wasn't your fault? If you answered yes for any of these, stick around for the magical story on how I got all of the trophies in Hogwarts Legacy. Kind of. More on that later. Jumping right in, I ended up making a pretty generic character, but he looks like me from behind, which is most important. And obviously, what kind of Hogwarts hero would I be if I didn't have a cool scar? Still a good-looking chap, though, and he should have a distinguished name. Stephen, obviously, from the old and honorable Gumthemp family. Not the Hampton Gumthemps, though. They're pricks. We start the game talking to Professor Fig outside a carriage. A man from the Ministry named George joins us and has something to talk about. But first, everyone loads into the carriage, which is heading to Hogwarts, so I can attend the sorting ceremony. As George gets in, he sees someone standing off to the side, but he doesn't say anything. Once up in the sky, we learn that Stephen Gumthemp, not of the Hampton Gumthemps, is starting Hogwarts as a 5th year, and Professor Fig has been tutoring him before the year starts to try and catch him up to all the other 5th years. Now to the juicy stuff. George shows a paper with front page news about Ranrock and the Goblin Rebellion. He then says it was Fig's late wife who initially drew his attention to Ranrock and also sent him a curious container. I point out a glow that neither of the other two can see, and once the container is in hand, it opens. There looks to be a key inside, but right at that moment, a dragon eats the entire back of the carriage, including George. Damn. R.I.P. In a cool but kind of morbid touch, the Threstrals are now visible since George got eaten right in front of us, and it confirms his death. Unable to escape the dragon, everybody bails from the carriage, and now Fig and I are free-falling. He's able to get the key back just in time, and as soon as he does, we're transported elsewhere. Damn, what an intro. So with that done, we are introduced to the healing mechanic of the game, and my coattails go a bit wild. We exit the cave to find a ruined castle, and while we're finding a path to it, Fig tells me that this is all about ancient magic. He believes it is what his wife, and now George, died looking for. Inside the ruins, we find a statue of a wizard that used to call this place home. And further in, there's a wall that once interacted with takes both Professor Fig and I to Gringotts. There's a goblin waiting for us, and he takes us on a cool cart ride deep into the bank. On the way, we pass a shady guard, and I tell Fig that his armband had the same glow as the dragon collar. Probably not good. Once we get to the vault, Fig and I are locked in per the instructions. Here I learn Revelio, which is the most handy spell in the game. It's how you find answers to basically everything. Inside, I use the connection to ancient magic to solve this small puzzle with a knight, and then we have to fight a bunch of them. We get separated, and I have to repeat what I just did, this time alone. I meet up with Fig in a large room with a pensieve in the middle. We both check it out and see two wizards creating the very room we are standing in. The Merlin-looking one had the same gift that we do, so he's laid forth a path for someone like me to follow. We leave the memory, and before we have a second to gather our thoughts, Ranrock, the rebellious goblin, makes his entrance. Fig attacks, but Ranrock is able to stop the spell and cast his own, all without a wand. The magic he used must have triggered something in the room because a giant knight comes out of the floor in the center and begins attacking everybody. I used the famous Gumthemp instinct and am able to locate a way out using a wall similar to the one that got us in here. It takes us to a forest right outside of Hogwarts, meaning we are able to still make the sorting ceremony. And with that exciting introduction finished, let's begin the game. First time to be sorted, I had already taken the quiz online and was myself sorted into Ravenclaw, so once I connected my account to the game, I was all set. Afterwards, the headmaster gets up to crush one of my hopes, informing everybody that Quidditch is cancelled for the year because of a student being injured the year before, which is dumb. Once everybody is dismissed, we meet Professor Weasley, who will show us to the common room. Yes, those Weasleys. I solve a riddle to get in, and suddenly it's the next morning, and we have some Ravenclaws to meet. So I talk to Samantha, Amit, and Everett. I find out a bit of what they're like, but not much. More importantly, Professor Weasley is waiting for us, and she gives us the Wizard's Field Guide. Story-wise, this is something to help you catch up to the other 5th years, Gameplay-wise, it holds all of the information you discover as you play the game. Now with that out of the way, it's time to learn. I have 2 classes to go to today. The first is Charms, where I learn Accio, a spell that is important to have when looking for collectibles. The professor then takes the class outside to practice the spell by playing a game of Summoner's Court. It's a bit like reverse shuffleboard, and after this there will be students that show up here to beat. In this class we also meet Natsioni, or Natty. She's actually from the African Wizarding School, and if you ask her more you can find out some cool info about it. After that class I go to the next one, Defense Against the Dark Arts. In this class I learn Leviosa and get my first taste of dueling. Our opponent is Sebastian, and before his health is even half gone, I've knocked him off the platform. He's so impressed that he invites me to his secret dueling club. I'm pretty pumped to learn about this, so I head right there. Sebastian has made my partner for a 2v2. I'm still learning wand combat at this point, but the duel ends up being pretty easy with the 2 of us. After I felt pretty good about myself, so I put on a flashy coat to rep the claw. Now it's time to plug back in with Professor Weasley, and she says that we have to go to Hogsmeade to get supplies for the year. Everything's already been paid for, so we just need to go and collect them. But first we talk to Professor Ronan, and this introduces us to another mechanic in the game. Certain professors in the game will be able to teach you spells at any time, but you need to complete tasks for them first. This time we only need to collect flying field guide pages, but usually they have tasks related to the professor, like the herbology tasks are to grow certain plants, the potions professor will have you brew potions and use them, that kind of thing. The requests get more and more advanced throughout the game, and they do count as side quests, so they have to be done to get the trophy. Once the pages are collected, I go back to learn Reparo. Now we can finally head off to Hogsmeade. Earlier, Professor Weasley let us choose between Sebastian and Natty to be our escorts. I chose Natty because I was hoping to hear more about her home and school. I don't learn much, but I do find out she's here because her mother accepted a position to teach divination. I also pass a flu flame, so I'll explain that. If you've ever seen the movies or read the books, you know about flu powder and traveling through fireplaces. Same idea here, it's the fast travel of the game. All you have to do is walk past a flame to unlock it, and there's a trophy for finding all of them. Nothing too hard because they are all on the map. We arrive in the village and Natty leaves us to get what we need to do. Once finished, I'll meet her in town center for a butterbeer. First I grab the spellcrafts needed, then I head over to get my wand from Ollivander. Now again, since I connected my profile to the game, my wand is chosen for me. We still go through the try this one bang, oh not that one, try this one boom. Eventually I end up with my wand, laurel wood with a phoenix feather core. It's surprisingly swishy at 12¼ inches. All that's left is to change the color, so I make it gray because it looks cool. Now to finish out the supplies, I head to the potion shop for recipes, and then the magic neep for seeds. With all the boring errands finished, I head to town center to enjoy a butterbeer. But before we're able to do anything, the town is attacked by 2 trolls. One is led the other way by older wizards, but when the second appears, only Natty and I are around to face it. The fight itself is easy, just whittle away at its health, and this is the first time where there are things that you can throw at enemies. So I do that a lot. The troll is defeated and a trophy is rewarded for it, and then the game rewards us as well by making us repair everything that was broken by the troll. A little cutscene after shows us the trolls were actually because of Ranrock, and they were supposed to be a distraction, so this guy, Rookwood, could scoop us up. He then looks directly at us, and instead of running away from the staircase, we run in front of it, even more in his view, but apparently he still doesn't notice us.
I don't think so.
Natty and I are still hankering for a butterbeer, so we go into the 3 broomsticks. Rookwood comes in with a hench, but everyone in the place is ready to throw down for us, so nothing happens. Now at this point, we're supposed to head back to the castle, and it's dark outside, so I'm thinking, damn, they probably haven't given up, and it's a long walk back to the castle. Should be pretty exciting. No, we just teleport there, and all is well next morning. Alright, so I'm not going to take you through every story beat. This is a video about trophies, so let's get serious and move on. I finish all the matches in the dueling club, which ends up not being too hard, and because of that, I can learn Incendio. I think Confringo is a much better spell because it's more long range, but both can be used in puzzles to clear brush and spider webs. Next, we need to head to the restricted section, and we are helped by Sebastian. He teaches us the disillusionment charm, which will turn us invisible and let us sneak around. I found this section a bit touchy with some of the prefects and ghosts, but thankfully there are talents to upgrade this stealthy charm, even some that allow you to sprint with it cast, so you're not so slow. We sneak through all the guards, but halfway through Peeves shows up and runs away to tell on us. Sebastian goes to beat him to the librarian and try and explain before he does, so I'm left to continue on alone. Pushing on through the restricted section will bring you to another trial. This one's a lot like the first one, with knights to beat, and a pensieve at the end that gives us some more insight into ancient magic. On the way back, we see Sebastian talking to the librarian, and he completely takes the blame for us, solidifying himself as a bro. Next to herbology to learn about the Chinese chomping cabbage. Then after that, we have a quest with Natty, which brings us into the world for the first time. Once you get to the little hamlet that she asked you to meet her at, there's only a conversation to be had with her, but after we hear a woman being attacked and head over to help. Once she is saved, I come across and solve the first of many Merlin puzzles. These are spread around the entire map. There are a ton of them, and you need to complete them all for a trophy. They also expand the size of your pockets, which is nice. After this, I find another puzzle and did a couple of side quests. Then I head to Defense Against the Dark Arts to learn the signature spell, Expelliarmus. It's a super handy spell to have, and all enemies react differently to being hit by it, so it's also an entertaining one. A bit further on after Potions class, we have the house quest. It's not really a house quest, or called that in any way, but I call it that because it's the mission which leads you to the map room, and every house has a different mission. As a Ravenclaw, I'm sent to the Owlery to find clues about an Ollivander family wand. There's a trophy for reaching the map room as a member of all 4 houses, so later on I'll give you a peek at the other missions. The mission eventually leads you to another trial where you have to fight your way through like the previous ones. At the end is a large room that has 4 massive portraits on the wall. You find out why it's called the map room later, but for now, I got the trophy for reaching the room as a Ravenclaw, and I'm finally able to spend talent points. Just a tip, because I found it pretty interesting, but to be able to have more than one spell set is actually a skill. And considering how many spells are unlocked to this point, I think it makes a good first purchase. So now that my own house's map room quest is done, let's check out the others. In the Gryffindor mission, you help out Nearly Headless Nick and some other ghosts. This mission takes you down to the kitchens and then off to see Jackdaw. The Slytherin one involves finding a cave next to the lake, and when you are lakeside, you can get a good look at the giant squid, who pops up to say hello. The Hufflepuff one is pretty short, but out of all of them, this is the one that takes you to Azkaban. There isn't much to do when you're there, but still, it's quite the brag for Hufflepuffs. They will quickly lose those bragging rights because I'm going to compare all of the common rooms now. We've already seen Ravenclaw Tower. It's huge, it's open, there's plenty of light and stacks of books everywhere, so it's pretty clear I'm in the right house. Gryffindor Tower is a lot like this, except it's more cluttered and red. Still lots of light and things to do. The Slytherin room is the most unique because it's in the dungeons and its windows have the lake right outside, so the whole common room has a cool blue aura. Some pathways are even elevated a bit to get through the circular hallways. And now we have the Hufflepuff room, which fucking sucks. Look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but there is such a thing as too much foliage. I get the nature look they're going for, but calm down. You get in here through a keg. Enough of that though, back to the video. Next, the class I've been waiting for. Flying class. It's an open world game, so what is more valuable than a quick mode of transport? The professor puts you through a few drills before really taking off, but none of it was necessary because I'm a natural. After class comes more excitement because I'm on my way to Hogsmeade to buy my very own broom. I'll be honest, it was hard to pick, and I had the gold, so I just got 4. This isn't an irresponsible purchase either because you need to collect all brooms as part of completing the game. And flying on a broom is cool by itself, but none of them look quite as cool as the Ember Dash when you're flying. I think that's the best early broom. The way the broom upgrades work is the guy in the store sends you to do races, and if you win, he uses that data to upgrade the broom and make it better. A couple of days go by and he'll send you an owl letting you know that the upgrade is finished and you can go purchase it, making your brooms faster. The first race, obviously a cinch because Gumthems have flying in their blood. Now for another mechanic introduced to the game way too late, we go to meet Professor Weasley so she can show us the Room of Requirement. This is basically the main hub for us throughout the game. This is where we come to identify items, this is where the vivarium will spawn for the beasts, and there's a planting table and a potion station. You can also customize the room to your liking, changing the style of the room itself and the entire ambience. But after learning all that, it's time to meet up with Sebastian. He shows me a secret location that his friend found, and also teaches me Confringo so I don't need to be right next to webs to burn them anymore. As we're leaving, I run into Ominous, who is blind and uses his wand to get around. He ends up being a very cool character, but right now he isn't my biggest fan. Right after that confrontation, I do a side mission to find the secret herbology room, and I'm only bringing this up to point out how disgusting Devil's Snare is. It's fucking gross. As long as you don't forget that, we can move on. Next trial. It's a bit more of the same. There are puzzles to solve and knights to defeat, but after all of that, at the end there is a boss knight. He mostly does this slash attack out in front of him, but every now and then he will do a charge up attack, and when he does this, just cast a spell that matches the color to do some serious damage. And then with him defeated, we can see what the Pensieve has in store for us. The next class I go to is a fun one and gives us another mechanic way too late into the game. We head to learn about beasties, and while there we learn how to brush and feed them. I head into this pen right here to give some love to the Neasels, but I'm still new with the controls, and instead of feeding this one, I nail him with a spell in the face. I have to admit, when that happened, I laughed pretty hard. The excitement comes after the class because I follow Poppy into the forest and get to meet Highwing, a hippogriff. Something that annoyed me a bit with the ending of this mission, yes, now I know how to care for animals, but I'm still not able to rescue them from the wild. That ability comes with a mission in the Room of Requirement that you get later. Next I breeze through the broom trial because I basically flew out of the womb on a broom. Also, maybe I'm crazy, but the word rings at the top just made me think of Lord of the Rings. Maybe it's the font, maybe the color, maybe I'm a freak, who knows. And though I've been playing the game for quite a while, here comes Professor Moon to let me know about another collectible to run around the world looking for. This is hands down my least favorite in the game as well. For the mission you have to sneak through the prefects to find the first two Demiguise moons. They are Demiguise statues, and for the mission you have to sneak through the prefects to find the first two, even though sneaking is never required again to find one of these statues, but oh well. Before you set out to do this, Moon teaches you Alohomora. Not the complete version though, he teaches you the spell at level 1. To get level 3 to open level 3 locks, you will need to find all of the Demiguise statues for him. And guess what? They can only be collected at night. So this is basically a bullshit collectible which you need to find all of before you can find the rest of the bullshit collectibles. I say, bullshit. So ignoring that for the time being, I attend a couple more classes and learn a couple more spells. I also do some exploring out in the world. I break into some people's houses and find some balloons to pop. Then, a game changer happens. I went through my challenges because I had completed quite a few, and as I did, I noticed I unlocked a new clothing style called Legendary Armor. I think I look pretty badass in this, so I wear it on the next main mission, which is a great idea because it inspires a spark of genius. At this point I was cooking through the story, so I went and looked at some of the trophies I would need to complete the game, and one of them was to get a hit streak of 100. Now this isn't actually a hard one to get naturally later in the game. I actually hit 200 on some of the bosses. But during the mission with Ludgok where you are looking for the helmet, there's this point where you have to fight a bunch of enemies, including a group of Inferius. These enemies are unique because while you can hit and stumble them normally, you don't do any damage to them unless they are hit with a fire spell. So I just cleared everything out of the room, saved one Inferius, and I got it into the doorway where I just unloaded until I got 100 hits. Progress. The wind was quickly removed from my sails though, because immediately after you have to infiltrate a camp. At the same time, a forest troll attacks. And yeah, I had some trouble here. After that, I'd like to cheer myself up with some heartwarming storytelling. But it turns out that heading out to meet Sebastian's family is not a fun affair. But we do learn some interesting things about Sebastian's hometown and the story itself. During the next mission, I'm on my way to take down some goblins, but my sweater doesn't quite strike the fear into hearts as I'd like. I did before this unlock the legendary mask, which completed the outfit, and in this very mission, on my way to kick some goblin ass man is born. When the ass kicking is all done, I change back into my school uniform to protect my identity. And this leads me to the next trophy. I don't remember who or where, but somewhere there's a person who will give you a quest to follow butterflies in the Forbidden Forest. You can find and follow them pretty easily because the swarm always has a marker on the minimap. Follow the butterflies for a bit, and they will lead you here to a chest, and you will be giving a trophy for doing it for the first time. Once you get that, don't make a habit of ignoring the butterflies because some of the chests they lead to contain items for the collection. And it, I guess, turns out it was Miss Willardsley and the 3 broomsticks. After a bit more collecting and exploring, I finally talk to Deke and start the mission that allows you to rescue animals in the wild. It's due to the same bag used in the Magical Beasts movies, and during the mission you only need to catch one of each, but I catch all of them so I have a lot to release into the vivarium. Hope you haven't purchased too many beast ingredients in the store, because here comes a new mechanic to get them for free. Every beast that you have in the vivarium, you can brush and feed them, and then collect whatever material that beast can give you. And it's great. The interacting part. Honestly, I never did much with the things they give you. As far as I know, they are only used to upgrade clothes, though. So next it's over to astronomy for another collectible I could have been getting this whole time. You go through the class, and then Amit gives you his extra telescope and takes you to an astronomy table where you can use it to pinpoint a constellation. There are tables just like this all over the world, and they can only be used at night. I can get behind that more than the demiguise moons, but this does mean that there are now 2 mandatory collectibles that you can only get at night. I say, bullshit. Ignoring that for a bit though, because Natty wants me to meet her to infiltrate a castle. Before heading in, Highwing comes out the front and is forced back inside, so rescuing her is the new objective. You can sneak or fight through the castle, and once you get to the top, Highwing and another black hippogriff can be rescued, and you and Natty fly off into the night. This part was easily a highlight of the game for me, and after the mission you unlock Highwing and the black hippogriff as permanent mounts. I also have the ability to change the skin into a Threstrel, but for as cool as they are, the idea of riding one around kind of creeps me out. Ultimately though, the hippogriffs aren't as fast or precise as the brooms, so I rarely use them. Next I attend some more classes and do some side quests, doing what I gotta do. I would recommend everybody who plays this do the side quests. There are some really good ones where I just thought, damn, this is a side quest? People could miss this easily. I talked to Deke in the room of requirement, and he tells me about an elf friend of his that he hasn't heard from for a bit. His friend is located in a dark wizard cave that is infested with spiders, so not looking great right off the jump. Upon learning that, I realized this isn't a job for your run-of-the-mill Hogwarts student. So I make a change and squish the big-ass spiders man makes his move. As I make it to the end of the cave, I realize that I don't have good news to bring back to Deke. That being said, I exit the cave at night and see my chance for Squish Big Ass Spiders Man to take a moonlight ride on Highwing, and it's pretty magical. After that, I have to meet Sebastian for the Dark Arts path. Ominous doesn't want to help, but joins up to find out what happened to his aunt who had gone missing. Once inside where we need to go, there are snake puzzles, where if you don't solve them in time, you're struck by a stone snake. That all gets figured out, and it turns out in order to continue through this area, someone needs to cast Crucio on someone else. Ominous's aunt died in this room because she was alone and had no one to cast it on. I decide to be a good friend and tell Sebastian to cast it on me. I then say yes to learning it, and Crucio becomes my new favorite spell. I get a good opportunity to use it because next I take on a main mission, which is another trial at Rookwood's estate. Rookwood is the name of one of the professors who set up this whole thing, but is also the name of one of our enemies. Juicy. I journey into the actual trial by myself, and it's more of what I've seen. Some puzzles, some knights to fight, and a big night at the end. My reward is a trip into the Pensieve and another large person in a portrait. It was hard to focus on that though because Poppy needs my help with something, and she's the Beast Girl, so this should be fun. The mission starts off strong by having a Dug Bog rip an elk off the shore and into the water. A little further on we enter a small tent, which turns out to be this massive underground fighting pit. There isn't anything we can do for the dragons that are in the ring currently, but there must be others elsewhere that we can rescue. We do find one that's chained up, and after all the enemies are cleared, I'm able to remove her restraints. It's not a great thing that she flies away because we also found an egg earlier on in the cave, and it's most likely hers. So we are going to hold on to the egg for now, and in the meantime, Poppy will track down the dragon so we can return it. So while waiting for that, one of the side quests is to talk with Natty and her mom. The thing I find funny about this is her mom is totally right. Me, as a character, I was forced into this situation, but Natty is just helping because she's a good person. Something I can get behind, but not after her mom brings up such valid points. It's just an interesting convo. I talked to a distressed goblin in Hogsmeade, and he tells me that his pet mooncalf was stolen. This sounds like the perfect job for give that goblin his pet back, man. The poachers are more the same, and I take them down easily. The real challenge here is finding Biscuit the mooncalf. There are like a dozen or more mooncalves in this cage, and I rescue most of them before I'm able to find Biscuit. Eventually, with my pockets full of mooncalves, I do find Biscuit and head back.
Biscuit is fine, as am I. I was able to rescue her without much incident.
No, that wasn't me. Another mechanic gets introduced after I talk to Deke. I now have the ability to breed animals I've rescued, so I start with the Threstrals. There is a trophy to breed every animal, so I'll continue to come back and do this throughout the playthrough. I go to class and learn the transformation spell. After that, I team up with Poppy again to return the dragon egg. This mission had some interesting cover sections that I felt were a little out of place, but overall it was pretty fun, and I am making good progress. I go on another side mission with Sebastian, and it's during this one that I learned Imperio. Ominous is fully onto us at this point, and even though he wasn't invited, he still somehow manages to follow us. Thankfully, I'm able to talk to him, and the situation doesn't escalate, but there isn't anything I can do to help the situation outside. Once we exit, we see that Feldcraft is under attack by the goblins. They get taken down pretty easily, but Anne is in the fight, and towards the end, a goblin is charging her, and Sebastian uses Imperio to save her, in front of everybody, including Sebastian's uncle. This is kind of the point where I started to question Sebastian as well. He had access to many spells that could have saved Anne, and this was his first thought. An unforgivable curse. But I can think on that during my next mission with Poppy, where we go into the forest and get harassed by some centaurs. Lovely. This is around the time that I started to catch up with some side quests, and I feel like every quest giver has a dead spouse. What's up with that? Anyway, I do take on the side mission that ended up being one of the strangest in the game. First, you need to have at least 1,500 gold to purchase this shop, and then when you go there, there's a chest inhabited by a poltergeist. And the game takes on a horror tone for a bit and gets legitimately creepy. I won't spoil too much, the chest section goes on for actually quite a bit, but it was still a fun experience, something different, and in the end you do get access to your own store. You can't sell anything to the people in town and make money from it, but there is a house elf inside that will buy clothing off you for more gold than anywhere else. But moving back to the main story, we have the next trial, and it turns out it's in the headmaster's office. This headmaster doesn't like students or professors or really anyone, so I have to use a polyjuice potion to become him and find out the password. On the way to the Great Hall, you can make some playful havoc as him, even changing the decoration in the Great Hall to match your house. The next trial is different from any other so far. The visuals turn into this black and white, almost sketched effect, and we are tasked to find the mysterious items that any Harry Potter fan will immediately recognize as the Deathly Hallows. The whole time you're sneaking around dark wizards on the map and a huge representation of death watching over everything. There's still another battle at the end, and the ultimate reward is getting another glimpse into the Pensieve. So now that I've gotten to this point, it's time to find my way to the shore. Up to now, I was frustrated because you can't fly to the shore, you have to go through a goblin tunnel, which is difficult to find. Once I figured that out though, I emerged on the other side, ready to take on a brand new region. The mission that brought me here, finally, is one that Deke gives you to hunt down a phoenix. And upon arriving, I quickly realized that this is a job for Save That Bright Red Birdman. Heroism leads me to the phoenix, and I rescue him with style. I do forget to take off my costume before returning, but I think Deke can keep a secret. I then once again move to clearing out some side quests. It was mostly just a push to talk to everyone around the map and get the missions onto my list. The ones that I didn't need to look at a map to hunt down, I did real quick. At this point, I was also coming up on the end of the campaign, and I had no idea. I head out with Fig on the next mission, and the door requires me to bring the Lord of the Shore, and the trial requires me to do it alone. The Lord is a graphorn with a plot of land in Ireland. Wail on him for a bit and bow at the last second, and he's unlocked as the third and final mount. Enjoy this ride because it was the one and only time I used him. Once back at the door with the Lord, it opens for us, and I head inside for the final trial. It isn't like the others. There is no combat, only a pensieve, which gives a final insight into how the situation ended with the 4 professors. Without going into too much detail, you then talk to all professors about what to do next, and I'm meant to go to Ollivander's to have a special wand made. Upon exiting the shop, we are cornered by Rookwood and a goon, and he takes us away to have a big fight. It isn't a one-on-one because Rookwood is a bitch. He fights you while other dark wizards constantly spawn to attack you. For the most part, I kept Rookwood under Imperio, so he helped me clear everyone out until it was just the 2 of us left. Once he's defeated, I head back to the map room to chat and learn the final battlefield is going to be below Hogwarts. So the map drains, I guess, revealing a door, and Fig and I head down. We battle through tons of goblins and a couple of trolls and eventually make it to the main area. Ranrock and his goons are there already and need to be stopped. And luckily we are not alone. All of the professors apparate down to assist us and start whooping some ass. Professor Weasley especially turns it all the way up to beast mode. This is probably my favorite part of the game, making my way through a battlefield while the professors are doing their work all around you. And it might be because it really reminded me of the fight at the end of Order of the Phoenix. Fig and I make it further in where the ancient magic is concentrated, but Ranrock makes it too. He's able to destroy the container, then absorb the energy, becoming a massive red dragon. So this is the final boss of the story, and I was so unprepared. So anyone about to start these last couple missions, I'd recommend doing some side quests and gaining a few levels first. The dragon fight is very similar to the knights at the end of the trials. There will be these magic balls floating around, and if you hit them all with a magic of matching color, they blow up and you are able to do some damage to Ranrock. I died here a lot. I would actually say more than any other fight in the game, this is the most Souls-like. Not only because there are multiple stages to this boss, but it's all about learning his attacks and avoiding them long enough to hit the bubbles and then him. It's also very Souls-like because I came back a day later and beat him in a frustratingly short amount of time. Once I defeated him, the rest of the story plays out and ended up being quite touching, made me tear up actually. I won't say more than that out of appreciation for the story writing, but it was great. So that's all done now, it's time for a little cleanup. So I start going for the Merlin trials, chests, found some constellations, real exciting stuff. I go on my last relationship mission with Natty, and that has a pretty surprising ending. I then take on the last quest with Sebastian, during which I make the biggest fuck up in the game. Please join me while I explain my pain. I am going to spoil the Sebastian storyline here, so heads up for that. Ominous lets me know that Sebastian is quickly sliding down a horrible path, and even knows how to conjure and somewhat control Inferius. I try to speak some sense into him, but I don't have the time because his uncle is here to stop us. I was surprised to have a boss fight against him, and the whole time I was just thinking, whoa, what are we doing here? Whoa. It continues to go downhill because Sebastian uses Avada Kedavra and kills his uncle. After this happens, Anne destroys everything Sebastian has been working on and leaves with their uncle's body. Sebastian takes off and I have to run after him. Outside we talk and he's trying to justify himself, saying that he had to kill his uncle to save Anne. At this point, I'm not on Sebastian's side at all. He's proven that he's willing to kill family to get what he wants, even though it could be impossible. Sebastian says it's a good thing he knew how to cast it, and I'm just like, dude, that was so unnecessary. So I tell him that nobody should know that curse. What I didn't know is that if I picked the other option, he would have taught me the curse. First fuck up. Later on, I'm talking to Ominous about what to do, and you have 2 options. Turn Sebastian in, or let him get away with what he did. I got way too into the story. Sebastian is only heading down a bad path, and if I don't do something, he's going to hurt or kill more people. So I turned him in. Second fuck up. This means that now in this playthrough, I am not able to learn Avada Kedavra. Once I realized this, my first thought was, shit, there goes my Learn All Spells trophy. But it turns out the unforgivable curses are not included to earn that trophy. You can actually get it without learning any of them. And this can be found with just a simple search online. I didn't do that. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. And because of that, I assumed that I wasn't able to get the trophy. At the time, this wasn't the end of the world because I knew I would have to start new games with the other houses to get the trophy to make it to the map room. So on my next playthrough, I'll just get all the spells and I'd be good. Turns out I wasted many hours doing this, and I only needed Defendo in my first playthrough to get the trophy. And it gets even worse because I got all spells but Avada Kedavra when I unlocked the trophy, so I basically ended up at the same spot as my first playthrough. This could have all been avoided if I had just looked it up and confirmed what I had to do. Don't be me. So, now that I've hopefully wisened up, I can continue with clearing up what's left in the game. I go to my last Summoner's Court match, and it turns out that Professor Rowan is my final opponent. So I beat him and finish off that quest line. The next quest with Poppy has us fighting alongside some centaurs, which was pretty awesome. At this point, I was also trying to be conscious of other trophies as I go as well. There was one to use Petrificus Totalis on 50 enemies, so I made more of an effort to be sneaking when clearing out camps. Eventually I got it and was able to fight normally again. Making a lot of noise, charging in recklessly, you know how it goes. It was also at this time that I hung up the superhero costume. I can't be doing things seriously in the world as makes dumb mistakes in games man, which is what I'd become. So whatever clothing I get, if it's better, I put it on. It was at this time that I talked to Professor Weasley about the year. She basically says that you've done a lot, but there's more to do. But she also mentions some rumors that she's heard about you. These are all of the different side missions you've done up to this point, and the more you do, the more she will bring up. After I talked to her, I wanted to hunt for a bit, so I made a big push to get as many of the Hogsmeade collectibles as I could, raging at every lock too high in level to pick. Once I did have enough statues to get Alohomora level 2, I took some time to roam Hogwarts looking for collectibles. It basically consists of walking 5 steps, then casting Revelio, find the ding, and repeat. Throughout the castle there are also hidden Revelio pages and puzzles that reward you with them. Some of these are super simple, like lighting the braziers. Others are more complicated, like the math doors, even though it's usually just a chest behind those. I should have paid more attention to the clothes I was putting on, because while I was running around looking for collectibles, I accidentally triggered the end of the year cutscene, and I got to attend the award ceremony looking like this. Great. So now that the credits rolled, all I have left is cleanup. First thing I do is side quests I'd been ignoring. Some of them take a bit more thought than others, but eventually they're all done, and I've got 2 trophies left to get all of the Merlin trials and also complete the collections. Some of the collections are already done, and that's because of the story, so I only have to focus on a couple. The enemy section is for everything that you fight in the game. Once all of the normal enemies are found, it's going to take a while to fill because what is left is legendary enemies. From what I've gathered, these can be found 2 places. One is marked locations on the map, where you fight a strong enemy, and the other is from side quests. They'll usually end up as a boss at the end. And there are quite a few enemies in the collection that are the last boss in a side mission, so be sure to keep up with them. The appearances come with completing challenges. I do think you get some throughout the game in missions, but in the end, the only ones you should have left are the ones for completing the challenges. And that does mean all challenges. The combat, the exploration, everything gives you something wearable or something else you need in the collections. Wand handles are self-explanatory cosmetic items, and from what I can remember, mostly all of them came from chests. Traits and conjurations also mostly come from chests, but I believe some might be tied to challenges, definitely some of the traits. Traits are effects that you can add to your clothes to give them better stats, but I've never really messed around with any of them. Conjurations are new things that you can add to the Room of Requirement or Vivarium. Again, didn't do much with them other than collecting. Ingredients are super easy to find in the game or buy in the shop, and you get the other brooms from broom challenges and vendors. It boils down to pretty easy stuff, but it's a lot to do. That's until you get to the Revelio pages. Some of them make sense, complete this puzzle and get a page, but there are also ones placed around the world that are invisible. In order to collect them, you need to cast Revelio, and you need to be right on top of them. Any cast more than a foot or two away won't make them show up, which is a pain in the ass. So things were moving along. I brought enough demiguise statues to Professor Moon, and finally could unlock level 3 locks. After this, I immediately went all over Hogsmeade and got everything that I couldn't before that. I also started to venture out to complete the Merlin trials. The trials come in different puzzles, all easy, some annoying. One, you need to parkour on some rocks that are set up for you. Sometimes you have to put a giant ball into a half dome, and even get to roll it down a hill for a couple. What fun. There's one where you have to destroy some rocks, and there's one where you have to repair some, and another where you have to rotate. When lighting the braziers, always leave the shortest one for last, and for the one where you have to lead fireflies, always try and do this one at night. Saves a lot of time. Eventually I cleared up all the trials I found and looked up some guides for the rest. If you hadn't passed over or been near them to make them spawn on the map, then they wouldn't be there. The map does have a super handy feature where if you zoom all the way out, it'll tell you what collectibles you still need in a certain area. And it was also during all this traveling that I finished my combat challenges. It's pretty easy to find specific enemies in the end game, but when it comes to dueling feats, I'd recommend getting them out of the way early. The dueling feats are challenges that show up on the side of the screen during every combat encounter. If I had paid attention and did these throughout the game, I probably wouldn't have spent as much time searching for enemies at the end. Fast forward a bit, and the Merlin trials and combat challenges are all finished. I have a manageable amount of collectibles left, but they're all in Hogwarts. By this point, I feel like I've been over every damn inch of the castle, and looking up guides is a pain because there are so many I've already collected. Like the world map, the Hogwarts map has a handy tool where if you hover over a section, it will tell you what you still need. Using this and some help from the internet, I was able to find the rest of them. I have to say, when it comes to the Hogwarts collectibles, the one thing that I appreciated is it did force me to explore the entire castle, and the whole thing. Looking for hidden passages and rooms I never knew about was something I was going to do anyway. I just wish I had been more keen to the Revelio pages earlier on. One of my biggest gripes is the pages though, and it highlights what's so bad about them in the castle. When you cast Revelio and hear a ding, it could be anywhere. It could be just around the corner or a floor above you. The chests, locks, and puzzles all show through the floors and walls, but the pages do not. Even when you use Liquid Luck, it only puts the chests on the minimap. And the fact that no location has a local map is a huge pain. The invisible Revelio pages might be the worst collectible of all time. I heard that fucking ding in my sleep for a while. But finally, I got all of them. So that's all collectibles. I should be finished, right? Wrong. I have gotten all collection chests, but I'm still missing one conjuration in the collection book. This is unfortunately a well-known glitch in the game, and one that clearly hasn't been patched yet. From what I understand, it has something to do with the first butterfly mission, and I'm still not sure exactly how to fix it, so I'm going to shelf this trophy for a bit. That wasn't my last trophy though. I actually had 2 trophies left, but they're easy and don't require any thought. I still needed to get to the map room as a Slytherin and a Hufflepuff, and skipping through the cutscenes allows me to do this in a pretty reasonable amount of time. And with those done, my Hogwarts adventure draws to a close for the moment. I'll be back eventually to get that platinum, but right now I don't have it in me. Super fun game, hands down, but the collectibles almost broke me at the end. It was mostly the Revelio pages, and I still don't think those are bad enough to sway my overall opinion. The last conjuration might be, but I'm trying not to let that sway my overall opinion. Trophy-wise, it wasn't that bad. Again, I just feel like the pages being invisible added an unnecessary challenge to it. There are moments when looking for the pages will actually almost flicker or shimmer, and like 30% is visible. And I don't know why that's not how they are all the time. I feel like a good collectible is something you can miss when not looking for it, but it's easy to find once you are. And these are just impossible to see anytime you want to try and find them. What really drove it home was the fact that the last couple of pages in the castle were rooms that I had already been in but just hadn't cast Revelio at the time. Other than that, I do think the challenge was appropriate for the reward of completion. I would like to say sorry for the lack of uploads. I have been pretty active in streaming, so if you wanted to keep up with what I'm playing, you can check me out on there. Links in the description. And I know that I really need to get better at sticking to a game to finish, so I have more videos that I can make. If you have any comments or questions about the trophies or game, feel free to leave a comment down below. I hope you enjoyed the video. I have been Steven, you were you, and I say, until next time.